What's up, everybody? Squirrel Man's back again. Still sitting here in Ohio, man. I've been here almost damn long enough to do a reset. I think. Um, my load got canceled last night, and then the one after that obviously got canceled. But I'm getting ready to go to pick up a load down the street. I'm going to Jersey tonight. It's like 516 miles, so that'll be some good money. I got paid. My paycheck was okay. But I ain't gonna lie to y'all, man. After taxes, I make 67 cents a mile. After taxes, it comes out to like 50 cents a mile. And that's no joke. I did 3,000 miles exactly, and I pulled in just under $1,600 in a week. So I'm a little disappointed about that. I thought I was gonna bring in just under 2,000, maybe around like $1,900. Somebody asked me about some prison stories, man. I mean, I can tell you a billion prison stories, man. I got so many of those. I got enough to write a book on that shit. I tell you, I got into that like back in 2010 because I had nothing else going for me. You know, I just quit a job I'd had for like 5 years, and I had like nothing going for me. So long story short, I actually, you know what? I actually was working for immigration. I actually went from working in the chimney business. I quit that, like I said, and I went and got unarmed security certification just so I'd have something on my resume, you know, that looked like, you know, security-esque, whatever. I couldn't find a security job, even though I paid like $250 to get the certification. And like nobody was hiring back then. And I was on Craigslist all the time. This was back when everybody was doing Craigslist. You know, I was over there every day at my parents' house on the computer because I didn't have one at the time. And I found this immigration job. It was at Farmville, Virginia. They were building a brand new immigration facility. This was back when Obama was president. So for all you moron liberals that think Obama was so light on immigration, no, he wasn't. That dude was super hardcore on illegal immigrants. I guarantee you he was. That's why I laugh at all these morons that talk about kids in cages. That dude built the cages, and I saw them. Trust me. I worked at a brand new facility. You can look this up. It was built back in 2010. It was in Farmville, Virginia. It was called ICA, Immigration Centers of America. I was one of the first employees to work there. There was like 200 of us that got hired. And real quick, we got hired, but the dude who hired us didn't do really any background checks on the people he hired. And then the big wigs found out about this, so they called us all into the this big room one day and sat us down. They're like, unfortunately, we're gonna have to background check everybody here, and we have no idea how long it's gonna take. I said, are you fucking serious, man? I moved here for this job. I was mad as shit, dude. Me and a lot of other people. So we're all asking them questions, you know, and they're giving us jobs that just to keep us on the rope, you know, like stupid jobs. I would show up like one day a week and help them with some construction or some shit. Because like I said, the place was brand new. It wasn't even operational yet. They were still getting it off the ground, you know. So I felt like a total guinea pig. You know, me and a lot of other guys felt like guinea pigs. I was getting in a van with them once or twice a week, and we were commuting up to Northern Virginia around Fairfax into this building that you would never even know it was there if someone didn't show it to you. And there was immigration facilities in there, and we'd go in there and we'd help process illegal immigrants and put them in these big rooms with like 40 or 50 guys in one room. And I hated doing that job, man, because I'd have to commute like 3 hours each way, you know, because from Farmville way up to Northern Virginia, that's a hike, man. And I wasn't even making very good money. Actually, I got a whole other story about that, about the money. I could maybe tell some other time. But I just got so sick of it because I wasn't getting consistent hours. And I ended up applying to Powhatan Correctional. Powhatan was a story that will be forever ingrained into my brain for the rest of my life. I don't care if I live to be 300 years old. I'll never forget that place, man. It was the most just disgusting, brutal environment I've ever witnessed in my life. That place was built in, I think it was 1925. And like I said, this was about 2010. And for any of you that don't know, the older the facility is, the more corrupt it's going to be. Because you can't take a facility that's 100 years old and run it like a modern facility. You can't do it. It's impossible. It's not built the same way. Like that facility was built, had all bar doors, like you see in those old school prison movies where they can stick their hands out and grab you. Yeah, that's old school stuff. They don't build them like that anymore. Not that I've ever seen. But I remember I went through the academy, which was like 30 days. Had a lot of fun, met a lot of cool people. We partied. I stayed in a dorm for 5 days a week, and I went home on the weekends, which was only like an hour away, so I could see my wife. But man, all week we just train, shoot guns, and party at night. I had a blast, man. But then the party ended, and then I actually have to go do the job, and that's when it really got crazy. Like, I'll never forget the first night I went in. I got my assignment. I was working night shift. And I asked for the craziest assignment because I had such a big head back then that my ego was just through the roof. And they were like, "Are you sure you want to work there?" I was like, "Yeah, just give me the shit. I want it. I'll take it." And that was in receiving. Receiving, if you don't know what that is, that's when inmates are brought in and they're waiting to be assigned or classified. And they could be sitting there for a while, It could be weeks or months before they get classified and sent to another facility, And the place I usually worked in was called the jungle. They called it the jungle because it was like the worst place in the prison, man. It was crazy. It was so unpredictable. There was almost no discipline amongst the inmates. It was really dark in there because the lights were so crappy at night. There was 3 floors, but you could only let out one at a time. So you were constantly going up and down these floors, just walking around, making sure everything was kosher, making sure you don't find somebody hanging in their cell or getting raped. It was crazy. I'll never forget the first night I went in there, though. I walked into the booth, which is all glassed off with bulletproof glass, and I walk in there, and there's like 3 guys sitting there. I introduced myself, and like, "Hey, what's up, man?" And the first thing they asked me was, "You ain't a snitch, are you?" I said, "No." Looking at them, but then I'm like, "Oh, man, that means I'm working with a bunch of corrupted assholes. I guarantee they're sneaking in contraband, doing a whole bunch of shit they don't want to get stuck for, And that's actually true, because it was only a couple months later, I'm in lineup. I got to go to lineup every day to be briefed, right? And they told us, they're doing a surprise check for all the staff. They're like, it's coming in like a week or 2 weeks or whatever. And that was crazy to me. You don't tell people there's going to be a search. If you're trying to catch these people carrying contraband, you don't tell the same people. That was so funny to me. I was like, that's when I knew this place was corrupted as shit. I guarantee I was like, there's probably mass cell phones. You name it, it's probably in here, I'm just glad I was not the one bringing that shit in, so I never had to worry about it, I remember it was like the first week I was in there. I was super young, had a big head, like I said. I was in amazing shape. I miss those days, but I'm walking the floor. Inmates are running around everywhere. TV is blaring because they give them the remote and control the volume. So the volume is like blaring all freaking night, and they're always watching BET. So the music's blasting if they're not watching a basketball game. But I'll never forget, I'm sitting there and I got my hands up like this, and I'm just looking around, and this young black kid, he couldn't have been like 20 years old, comes walking up to me, kind of blindsided me, walks up to me in my ear, and I'll never forget it. He says, "Hey man, if we was anywhere else, things would not work out very well for you." And I looked at him like, "Are you serious, dude? Did you just say that to me?" Bro, I'm like, did you just threaten me, bro? I'm like, I didn't even know you existed. I'm just sitting here minding my business, and you're going to walk up to me and say something like that to me, you know? I was heated, but I didn't want to show that I was heated immediately, right? So I was like, okay, I just went like this, and he walks away like he didn't even do that. And I waited like a couple of minutes for him to walk into I seen that he was getting ready to walk into his cell. And he goes to walk in there, and I thought I'd be a smartass, right? I waited for him to walk right in there, and I was going to slam the bar door on him and trap him in his cell, and I'm going to laugh at you like, haha, fuck you, you know? But right as I did that, he was quick like a cat, dude. He really was. He saw what I was doing, and he caught the door. And instead, I just said, fuck you, and I grabbed him by the throat, and I threw him up against the wall, and I started choking the shit out of this kid. And he was just like that. Like, he was so shocked. He didn't think I was going to do something like that. You know, I honestly didn't think I was going to do something like that, but he just had me so raged, and I didn't want to look like a pussy in front of all these inmates, because the second you look like a pussy in front of all the inmates, you might as well quit and go home, because your life is going to be super miserable. They are going to torture the shit out of you every single day until you quit. So, like I said, I grabbed that kid with everything I had and just started choking the life out of him. And he was like this, just his hands up, right? Like, all of a sudden, he's innocent. And then, like, 2 seconds later, all I see is my officer come running towards me. He's like, dude, stop. All these inmates are like horseshoed around watching this happen until he finally got me to let him go. And then I walked off like nothing happened, you know? And then like 2 minutes later, I get a phone call from a sergeant. He's like, hey, he's like, Squirrel, go work this other unit. But that was the end of that story. And I never got in trouble for that. I didn't. You know, which is so funny to me, because if that had happened in the facility I worked in North Carolina, I would have gotten in massive trouble for that. And I'll tell you why. Because, like I said, these old facilities, none of them have cameras. The only place they really put cameras, and I can't speak for all of them, right? But the only place they put cameras is in the SEG unit, right? Because that's the only place I seen them was when I worked SEG, and SEG is a whole different story, you know, a whole different story. That is crazy. I could tell you some wild shit about that, man. But yeah, they didn't have any cameras. But when I went to work at the other facility in North Carolina, which is about 5 years later, I took a good break in there. Anyway, yeah, it was like 5 years later. This place was brand new. It was built in like 08 or 09 or something, and it was all modernized, cameras everywhere. And you work in a place like that, it's a lot safer for the officer. But you're not going to get away with anything, man. Anything. So that's just one story. If y'all keep asking me about that stuff, I might tell you some other stories. But yeah, that was like my first introduction or whatever into the prison life. That's the kind of job where you don't know what you're made of. You don't know what you really have in here until you get put in an environment like that. Whether you're an officer or an inmate, it doesn't matter. You don't know what you're really capable of in here and up here until you get stuck in an environment like that where you're forced to survive, you know. And a lot of people can say, well, you're an officer, you can walk out of there. That's true. That's absolutely true. But I wanted to work there. I had to work there at the time because I didn't have very much. I couldn't make money anywhere else, you know. So I'm like, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to do everything I can to survive and not look like a punk, you know. So there's such a big difference there between living there and working there. There's things that I don't care how long you lived in a prison as an inmate, there's things you will never ever know about COs. I promise you'll never know because you're not in those rooms when there's only COs standing around talking. You know, at a certain time, like tell that inmate to leave, you know, and then we're going to have a talk. There's things, those inmates, I don't care if you were in prison for 50 years, you will never know certain things that officers do, you know. Like, I'll tell you one thing, officers fight all the time. As long as there's no cameras, they do it all the time, just as much as inmates do. And I guarantee you the inmates we make sure that they don't see that. You know, I've been in fights with officers as long as, because they know there's no cameras. All right, now I'm gonna call you out, because the bigger the tough guy you are, the other officers want to call you out. The other tough guy officers, that's one thing. We make sure nobody sees that. So anyway, any questions, comments? Maybe you got your own experiences. Leave them in the comments. All right, y'all. Like, share, subscribe.